Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Today, we'll be talking with Tony all about future of automation, automation testing of machine learning models, and a bunch of other high-level topics that are really relevant today. You don't want to miss it. Tony is a technocrat with over 13 years of experience and a versatile asset to any organization. His expertise spans over web, API, mobile, desktop, data, and RPA automation testing. Tony has also led teams to deliver high-quality software projects, and he has skills for the cloud, security testing, performance testing, and DevOps. He's led all those initiatives. So you're going to learn a lot from this episode. You don't want to miss it. Check it out. This episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast is sponsored by the Test Guild. Test Guild offers amazing partnership plans that cater to your brand awareness, lead generation, and thought leadership goals. Get your products and services in front of your ideal target audience. Our satisfied clients rave about the results they've seen from partnering with us, from boosted event attendance to impressive ROI. Visit our website and let's talk about how Test Guild can take your brand to the next level. Head on over to testguild.info and let's talk. Hey, Tony, welcome to the Guild.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. I've seen many times you, so it's nice to be on the other side now.
Great to have you. I guess before we get into Tony, I usually mess up bios. So is there anything in your biography that I missed or your intro that you want the Guild to know more about?
Nothing much. I think you stated it rightly. I have been experimenting a lot recently with my skills, and so what I came across, to be honest, is the way technology is changing drastically. QA, being a horizontal person, has never been in a position to fulfill that technical depth. That's what I feel. Maybe a very harsh truth, but that's what happening around. Whenever I talk to people, I see and I observe those things. So I thought to research on some of the areas which are far away from traditional testing. Maybe even web automation or maybe mobile or API automation have become traditional now as we speak, right? There was a time those things. Automation tester of web or API was seen in QA community as a Superman kind of a thing, but I believe these days that's very common, and that's kind of thing that have become a prerequisite for any QA person to have that knowledge. Now, given the time is changing, I believe, see, if you see last 6 months, there are thousands of AI tools have been introduced to the market, to us. Our life have become very easy. Technology has become integral part of our life, transforming the way we communicate, work, learn, interact with the world, and it continues to evolve. It will not at a very astonishing pace and revolutionizing the industry and bringing up significant changes in various aspects. Right. So if that is happening, then we must see in this particular world where we stand, and that's very crucial. If we don't do that, we do retrospect every time in our projects, in our releases, in our products, but it's time to do that in our career as well, in our skills as well. This is for everybody. You, me, whoever the person calls himself to be a part of QA community. See, machine learning models are ever increasing now. AI models. We are talking about Web3s. HTMX is the future of HTML now. At least that's what I've been hearing and and reading. And Internet of Things has injected everywhere. A lot many devices are talking to each other. Lot many things. People talk about introducing AI in testing, but before that, before even talking about that, are we doing testing of the AI that is created? We will be relying on that, but how? We all heard the stories of how the software fails and how it cost so much of the money. We see lot many things are changing around. So I think my whole and sole point in last couple of months is, or maybe in last 6 months, is to do a lot of research in these things, and come up with some of the solutions which may help the community. Or maybe even if I don't get any solution, my point is to get a direction. At least I can provide some direction to some people who can follow the path and embrace the change and welcome all of us to the new world.
Absolutely. So let's dive into a little bit of that research. So, being older, I remember when automation was like a new thing and people are like, it's not part of testing. I don't need to learn it, and it's the same thing I'm seeing almost, same thing with API testing and then API took off. Same thing I'm seeing with machine learning and AI is that a lot of people like dismissing it, like, oh, it's not testing. It doesn't really help. It's a dumb thing. It doesn't work. So are you seeing the same thing? Like, do you think testers should be embracing it? Because you have been researching it. Do you actually see it living up to the hype? Because obviously there is a lot of hype around AI and automation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people are very much reluctant. You rightly said. As a human, it's nature of this kind that it resists change. So I believe that's happening around. I talk to people, and whenever, okay, so there may be certain groups, maybe in WhatsApp groups, YouTube channels, or Telegram channels, or wherever the social media in any shape or form can exist. And where I am also, very active. I not that much active to be honest, but yeah, whatever bit of it I can do. So whenever I go and talk to people or try to discuss some of those points which you mentioned right now, I don't see people are paying a lot of attention. They are very reluctant over there. So, in fact, when I wrote a couple of chapters on how to test machine learning models. So, I will continue that. For now, I mean, don't get a lot of time to do that, but I'll continue on that whenever and wherever I get the opportunity. So, when I was writing around that, I try to reach people. I try to find the answers. Some of the things. See, when you research, um, you may be or may not get the answers, right? So either you reach out to people or you read some books or however. But I mean, for me, it was like almost end of the door. I mean, the doors were closing. I mean, I didn't get a lot of stuff on internet as well. So, I mean, that's where I feel that people are very much, bringing in uh, a conscious ignorance to this particular thing.
Right. Absolutely. And you did mention, I'll have a link to this in the show notes. You wrote a really in-depth, I think it's a 3-part article on a guide to automated testing of machine learning models. So I thought maybe we touch at a high level what these articles are so people can actually dive in more with the links I'll provide. So why focus in specifically on machine learning as opposed to AI? Like, what's the distinction there?
See, I would say why I'm talking about machine learning is, see, um, AI. We know it's a field, a very big field in itself, and machine learning is one of the subset of it. The point is, in machine learning there is a lot of community research which is available on internet. Obviously there is on AI as well, but when we talk about AI, things get a little bit complicated, I feel so. Okay, I think if we understand somehow, see, there are two ways to learn anything: either go big bang, or take some reference and learn through that. Okay, even so, just like, let's say, if you are a very good uh, automation tester with Java and Selenium, I would say if you want to learn Python, pick Selenium so that you can learn Python very easily, because Selenium you already know. So my point is, you are learning sideways here, not going big bang. Okay, so instead of focusing on Python, you are implementing whatever you already done in Java in Python, so that your learning curve is reduced, and you get a lot of community help as well, right? So now it's on the similar lines. So my point is, maybe I'm completely wrong here, but my whole point is that there is a lot of research on machine learning. There are a lot of models. There is a lot of already written or kind of modulated or modularized, um, m- how to say, some functions are already there, right? Which you need to use to predict some models. Maybe you want to do classification or regression, supervised learning, non-supervised learning. See, these things eventually you have to use in AI as well, because those are like it's the same thread, like, right? So my point comes here is, start from where you get more help in community, so that you can build on it. I mean, you cannot go big bands in areas where you don't know anything, right? So that's what my context was, and I had some knowledge around machine learning as well, um, because I was working on one project as well, apart from my day-to-day job, which involved some sort of machine learning. It was very basic, where some of the what you can say, the online payments, that how they were, there were some tips with the payments. So that's what I've been given a statement in the past, like 1 year back, or more than that, little bit more than that. So this was a clear case of unsupervised learning, wherein there are no labels. All you can see, you can predict, and you can create a hyperplane, so that you can see where the categories belong. So maybe, for example, I would say that, let's say whenever Joe makes a payment, he pays around 10% of tip as a service token um, to like whoever the concern, whoever it concerns, right? So and when I pay, let's say I am pretty much shy, or I am poor, so I pay just 5% of it, or maybe zero. So my just point is, there is no way you can judge tomorrow. Joe can pay 12% or only 1% or 0%, right? So there is no labeled data. I mean, you cannot say that whenever Joe comes into picture, he always pays 10%, or whenever Tony comes into picture, he always pays 5%, right? So this was very distributed data. This was unlabeled data. So, I mean, that supervised learning may not be an effective task over there. So that's from where I think I read a lot around machine learning in those times. And then I think on AI, for now at least, I don't have that much knowledge, or maybe self learning is very limited from my side, because there are too many aspects. One is you do your job, you already research in some of the things as hobby. I also, you know, focus a little bit on doing some going out activities. I mean, I do cycling or running maybe at times. So my my whole point is over here is that whatever I know, I want to improve on it, sidelines, on the sidelines, the example which I gave, not on the, I mean, as a front foot. I am not front foot on that. Okay. So that, from that aspect, it came into picture. Yeah, just one small thing. So when I was trying to write the article, my on article, so I completed two articles on that. Okay. So my whole point was to let people understand that what exactly is machine learning before. I mean, I gave a couple of examples over there, how to test it automatically. I mean, automation is a key here. You cannot do things manually when there is a lot of data, or maybe a lot of already how we can say complicated code involved, right? Or complicated libraries involved. Manual thing is out of the question. So over there, I have tried to explain that what exactly a basic model works, how exactly, and what and how it look like, and then what exactly we can test it. So that's the nature of the article.
Awesome. So a lot of times when I speak with different people, I get different opinions. Like you don't really need to know what's going on under the covers. It's still testing it like you would normally test anything. So, you do cover the three types of machine learning: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. How in depth does someone needs to learn AI and machine learning though? Do they just need to be aware and they need to know these terms, or do they really need to like go back to school almost and take like courses on this? Like, how much knowledge do they need to know before they can actually test, say, machine learning?
Yeah, see, it completely depends on what kind of model we have, first of all. But just to just to answer that, I think, see, machine learning, it's something related, a lot related to mathematics as well, right? It's not only a field of computers, but it's a field of numbers. It's a numbers game mostly, right? So I would recommend whoever want to learn that or who want to understand and invest some time over there. I think just to understand the terms is not going to help you. Maybe at least you try out a very basic examples. At least you must try out before testing the whole sort of machine learning. So there are certain models in scikit-learn, which is a library freely available to use, and I would recommend that whoever wants to explore their knowledge or maybe expand their knowledge over there, you can use it. So Iris is very basic data set which is available. There are like very simple data set which which you can see and you can say okay where it belongs. So my point is whenever you uh, whenever you use it, okay, so then the it is that the data is quite efficient, so that by seeing at it mostly you will understand that uh, whether what my understanding is right or not. Okay, so first things first and simple steps. So that's where I think you must create at least one basic model around supervised learning or unsupervised learning. However, so at least if we create a couple of basic points over there, models over there, which will help us understand in detail that what exactly have happened here, then only we will be in a position to understand it much better. But yeah, if that is for starters, but if somebody wants to do it to I mean want to go and go very hard on it. So definitely it is a very wide area, very big area. It's not only, as I said, limited to computers. It's a lot related on mathematics as well. So may not be, you don't have to work on the formulas, but because that's already written on these libraries, but you must understand that what exactly is happening in the under the hood.
Nice. And what I like about the articles is you have examples in Python, easy to follow, and you even have a GitHub of the code that people can play with. So I'll have a link to that. I think that it's a great idea just to get your hands dirty with some of these examples to really follow along. So after you cover some of the basics of machine learning, I think you start going over the different types of testing people are already familiar with, like unit testing, integration testing, acceptance testing, regression testing. Like why are those like everyone understands what those are usually. So what does that mean for machine learning? Is it the same thing for machine learning, or is it slightly different when you do unit testing or machine learning, or when you do regression testing or machine learning?
I would say those, see, from understanding point of view, it will remain same, right? The definition would remain same. So if you talk about regression, I would say definitely by definition, you can call it what exactly it is. But over here, the way we test is going to change the game over here. It's completely different, I believe, than what we used to do. Because in regression, see, in what happens in the normal regression sort of thing is we test something, the developer builds something on top of it, and then we do test it again so that make sure the unintended part is working fine, right? Over here, what happens actually is the models uh, are defined, or maybe let's say if you have a model, right, machine learning model, which predicts, let's say, the song of the movie, or maybe or movie out of a song. Okay, however, or maybe on it works on some data, but but so first what you will do is you will try to understand which model will eventually fit in maybe a decision tree classifier. So my point is, let's say there is a song, one of your favorite song, it may belong to some movie. Okay, let's say you have two movies in your mind, or maybe two albums, or however, or two singers who, so you can divide them. Okay, singer A is has not, I mean, sung this song, definitely it belongs to singer B. Okay, so that's the decision tree classifier which we are working upon. But now in these days, when we are I mean, uh, so data is huge, data is constantly increasing, and what people believe in the industry is they must work upon the real time data, which will be incremental in nature. So a chunk of data A, which was there, where your model was running and it was giving you maybe correct results, and you tested it thoroughly, it was code wise, it was fine, unit tested, it was fine. But now tomorrow, let's say there is an incremental load of data, which data B. Now assume this data B, which is a delta of A, will be pouring every day or maybe every hour. Okay, and real time your model has to predict it, so that its efficiency remains on the higher side, it's supposed to do. So over there, I think a regression comes into picture, that because whatever you have done on certain set of things. So I think the machine learning model, let's say if we are keeping the same model into picture with the change of data, or maybe with more data, but now the dynamics have changed. Your efficiency may not be 90%, because it could have dropped now, or maybe have gone up because of the quality of data. So over here, I think the regression is more talks in those terms, rather than how functionally it will look, uh, how efficiently it will look in this case. That is the regression um, kind of a scenario. So there can be couple of more, or maybe some more scenarios to add to it. But this is the major wherein the model's accuracy and are impacted, and that's where the regression comes into picture. Any model we talk about, I think any model in any machine learning model, see, more or less it has to work upon, um, for good data it should efficiency. I mean, the prediction should be, like, I would say, as good as 100%, right? For any bad data, it must be as good as zero, right? So that's how a model should look like. So in such scenarios, we must have both the scenarios covered from the testing point of view.
Great. And so once again, that's covered in the part two of the series, which I'll have a link to. And I just want to cover a little bit of part three, which I think is interesting. Generative AI has really been the buzz more so lately, I think. And in the third part of your series, you talk about how Chat GPT was tested through automation. So
Yes.
maybe you could dive in a little bit about that. Like, I think eventually people will have their own in-house kind of little chat GPT going. I even have a bot for my book now that is able to understand when people type in queries about the book, it'll come back as like using AI to process and give an answer. How can someone test that? I guess this next article covers it, but maybe some tips on that.
Yeah, sure. See, to be honest, it was not intended to be the third part around that, but yeah,
Okay,
given the
sorry,
hype
I just
around,
threw that in there.
no, 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 that's completely okay. See, those belongs to the same category. You can call it. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's a good idea. I'll rename it. But anyways,
Sorry.
uh, yeah. See, I think why I wrote this and I did some research on this, because uh, on Twitter it was trending, on Facebook it was trending, on LinkedIn it was trending. So so it made, yeah, it I mean it made me a little curious, because see, I used it, and and it helped me, to be honest, to a very great extent. um, at least in terms of, um, maybe in terms of the understanding around uh, my own knowledge. Okay, so to be honest, how I used ChatGPT was, first of all, that I was actually in a problem, and I was doing some research on it. I was stuck on that, and then I used ChatGPT, and so it eventually gave me something, not a solution, exact solution the way I wanted it, but it gave me certain ideas which really helped me. And on very second or third day, I was able to close out. I was able to, overcome that problem. So what I was doing is I was testing some PySpark notebooks uh, through automation again, and that is also on one of my bucket lists that I'm going to write on it. Um, so so there were some of the methods which, to be honest, I was not aware of in PySpark how to use them efficiently, and that's where I was stuck. So I used it. It went well. So I was very curious, though, though it's an AI model, we know how powerful AI can be, uh, but how, being a tester, you try to break things, right? I mean, that's in your nature. So I was trying to understand that how exactly this might have been tested. So I have clearly mentioned a disclaimer on my article that that's what my assumptions are, because nobody has published um, anything from maybe OpenAI as a firm. They have not mentioned anywhere, or and there was some white paper which were released, and I was going through them. So I got some idea out of it, and that's where my research were headed. So that's I just wanted to make sure that that's a disclaimer, that just my assumptions, and I feel those assumptions fit better in the story. But to be honest, I really don't know how that was tested in real. Um, but this is the way I feel, and I'm confident that that exactly, not exactly 100%, but at least somewhere 70-80% how it might have been tested over there. So again, testing ChatGPT might have gone through all the scenarios which we cover in sort of testing life cycle. Unit testing, integration, functional performance, user testing, or maybe so much of testing types. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand that how ChatGPT work, just in order to understand how to test it. Okay, so uh, basically, when I say ChatGPT is generative AI and large language model, so it's kind of its own kind, right? First of its own kind, I would say that in those situations. Even one may not have imagined that how far it will go, or it might will, I mean, it becomes, right. So um, so just to start on that, I think chat gpt might have tested with different types of inputs. Maybe, I think different types of questions, statements, commands, and even language which is not known to us, and also how it might have responded. Okay, so it this is for understanding strength and limitation of it, and then understanding the knowledge of ChatGPT. Okay, because it was trained on some set of data, which they claim that is on till 2021. So again, it's language ability. I mean, it's it's a natural language, right? So if you ask me that, okay, Tony, let's complete this statement that I am going to, I can complete, maybe I am going to vacations, I'm going to USA, I'm going to school, maybe. So I can complete those statements. Likewise, it's ability to complete the statement and understanding the context as well. So tomorrow, if you're talking about uh, testing, then I am going to test. Okay, this is the context. So that's how I complete the statement as a human. So that's compare its response again on that. And see, around the functional testing, which is a buzz, I feel, because that's where we focus. I mean, buzz in terms of how we deal with the things as to a community. Um, so its ability to perform a very specific task, okay, and its ability to generate very relevant responses with respect to the user input. I think that's the functional aspect of it. And yeah, so that's where it says, the article says as well. So what happens is, basically we need to understand chat gpt, what chat gpt is. So chat gpt has an engine. So there are multiple engines. I have literally talked about all of them in the article. So DaVinci is the, like, basic way to go. It's a, I don't remember the full name, full name of this particular engine, but it is kind of their, um, I would say, a backbone, that this actually DaVinci generates the output. So there are many of it. I think 7 or 8 they have those engines, but this is the basic one which by default you use unless you specify something else. Um, you can read the article. I don't recall those names. When I was researching, I did found out them. And then prompt is very much, um, what I can say. Prompt is something which we, it's a prompt which we put in, and then how the temperature. Temperature means how vague you want to go. So this, maybe you want to write anything under the sky. So, I mean, you want ChatGPT to write, obviously. So the temperature must go high, and max tokens. I mean, I think those are the number of words which you want ChatGPT to write for you. Okay, so considering those aspects, I think the basic use cases wherein, um, it I wrote one more article on ChatGPT that talks about, um, what are those prompts and all those things, which are not part of that ChatGPT, how it was tested, but it also covers the understanding of how exactly it's worked. So as I was talking about, yeah, so there were models which I told, the largest and most capable model with the ability to perform wide range of NLP tasks with high accuracy is DaVinci. Okay, now suppose I am using this model. I want to test it whether it is working correctly or not. So I can provide some asserting points. So for example, maybe I let's say if I ask ChatGPT, who is Joe? Okay, Joe is taking care of, I mean, helping a lot of test engineers, or maybe the community across. Okay, so now who is he? Okay, I know the definition. Who are you? I want ChatGPT to give me an essence of that definition. May not be in those, the articulations may be different completely, but there must be specific keywords when it must have keywords. Like for example, for me, if they are, the chat gpt is trained on something which have my knowledge as well, I mean information around me, it must talk about that what exactly my hobbies are, so it must mention my hobby. So maybe uh, reading is one of my hobby, right? So it must talk about that. I'm not saying that how exactly the statement would look like, but if that statement is not having reading or read, kind of a word, then that test is failed completely, right? So it's a very large model. We cannot test thoroughly. It's kind of a network. I mean, wherein you just check your points randomly. You cannot go and because that will be too exhaustive um, and there are multiple ways as well. So for example, maybe I have a very a small code which I do write every day, like WebDriver, new WebDriver, Chrome driver. Okay, that's a very basic line everybody writes, right? So now if I ask ChatGPT um, how do I automate my browser using Selenium, okay, so if the answer, it writing the code for me, if that code I read as a string, the code I read as a string, and if that code does not contain at least those WebDriver and those basic lines, even over there, I provide the full syntax as well, right? If it is not giving me that outcome, I think that is failing, right? So comparing its responses and language and its knowledge with different user inputs, maybe some negative things as well, and obviously performance matter. If let's say OpenAI or ChatGPT goes for a toss for 3-4 minutes, people will definitely open Bard or switch over there. So so that's how I think. I'm again. I mean, I'm just a disclaimer again. This is third or fourth time, but because honestly, I feel so. Right. That's a disclaimer over there.
Absolutely. I actually asked ChatGPT, how did the developers of OpenAI test ChatGPT, and it gave a very generic answer. So, yeah, it's definitely something people need to experience for themselves and try it. And I'll have links to all these articles once again in the show notes. Okay, Tony, before we go, is there one piece of actionable advice you can give to someone to help them with their ML AI machine testing efforts? And what's the best way to find or contact you?
Yeah, obviously, best way is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the whole and soul way. Yeah, so I think one piece of advice, um, again, I mean, today's AIML, right? Tomorrow it may be something else. So my whole point is, advice is let's not. Um, I mean, we just need to create a habit. Okay, habit of reading, habit of applying. I think more than reading, reading can go anywhere. More than that, applying is, I would say, what you know, what you have learned. Uh, we can only achieve what we actually want to do by applying and by applying our knowledge. That's it. If you go, I think you must go. You must not go with very old school that, you know. Let's say if tomorrow a task is given that, okay, let's test the blockchain. There's a product which is built upon blockchain. Test it, right? So if you go by old school, I think QAs must not go by old school, because if they they follow that path, they have to literally open the book and learn everything around blockchain. And till the time they test it, I think there will be some new technology which might have emerged. So I think if we apply a lot many things, it will come by nature. You don't have to do a lot many things um, to start with the basic knowledge. You can continue and you can build on it. But I would say, like, right from now, as we speak, I think spend some time on reading the space leaders, like just like Joe as well, right? Read about them, watch them, follow them, join multiple groups wherever you can. Try to solve a smallest problem in every field. I'm not saying that go very harsh on yourself and give you a take a lot of time out of your life, but the very small problems which you are facing, just don't ignore them. So my point is, let's say that, as I said, I was assigned to test PySpark models, right? So I started very small on that, and my thought process was not for a solution, to be honest. Definitely I need it. That's how I get my bread and butter. But um, my all the thought process was going that how small I can start over here. And the start is most difficult thing, right? In anything, in anything in the world. Okay, if I tell you that OpenAI or maybe ChatGPT or Google was made, but I'm sure there will be a lot of hesitant, a lot of reluctance, a lot of problems in the start they might have faced. Once is it crosses that orbit of starting, I think it goes into your habits or autopilot mode wherein you do things. Okay, it's easy to improvise, but it's very difficult to start. So take very small examples, whatever you are facing. If you are learning about new word, maybe let's say today you just heard the word microservices. I'm just giving one example, okay? So go and read about it. I'm not saying put a lot of time. It's just watch a 5 minute video or two two liner statement, one liner statement on that what exactly it is and how, just think through that how it can impact on my life, because we are living um, in this field. We must be on top of it, right? So that's how I follow, at least, and that's I would recommend others to do that.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. The links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A455. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.